Picture yourself in a chic Parisian cafe, savoring a glass of exquisite cognac, when the waiter shares an unsettling truth. Soon, this luxury will be beyond the reach of millions of consumers in Asia. Why? A geopolitical war is brewing, and Europe's most prestigious brands are in the crosshairs. But the ripple effects of this retaliation extend far beyond the realms of wine and spirits. Industries from Milan to Munich could crush under the weight of escalating tensions, threatening to plunge Europe into an economic nightmare. Why is China striking back against Europe, and what does this mean for the future of European trade? The trade tensions between China and the EU have reached a critical point. What was once a silent conflict simmering under the surface has now turned into a high-stakes game of economic chess. But here's the twist. It's not just about tariffs. It's about power, influence, and survival in a rapidly shifting global economy. China, having faced European tariffs on its electric vehicles, has retaliated in a way that hits Europe right where it hurts. They've launched an anti-dumping investigation into European brandy exports, with the most notable casualties being French cognac producers like Remy Martin and Moet Hennessy. Why target these industries? China is sending a clear message. If you block our tech, we'll block your luxury. But it's more than just a tit-for-tat exchange. What happens when China starts targeting industries that are the lifeblood of Europe's economy? The answer could be devastating. France's luxury goods sector is one of the most prestigious in the world, and China is its second largest market. In 2023 alone, 61.5 million bottles of cognac were sold in China. For French producers, losing this market is more than just a minor setback. It's an existential threat. Anthony Brune, the president of France's AOC cognac producers, expressed this fear candidly. "We are the first to pay the piper." So what does this mean for Europe? The ripples from this retaliation could spread fast and far, leaving the entire luxury goods industry on unstable ground. Italy, another vocal supporter of EU tariffs on Chinese EVs, could see its high-end fashion and accessories fall next in line. With Italy's wine industry already on edge, how long before the Chinese sanctions grow beyond France? If you're enjoying our content, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us grow. Thank you. It's not just luxury cars and fine spirits under threat. Spain's pork industry, Denmark's dairy exports, and even Italy's wine exports could soon find themselves in the firing line. Why is this significant? These are crucial sectors for European agriculture, and if China imposes tariffs, it will create a domino effect, impacting jobs, production, and regional economies. Spain, for instance, abstained from voting on the EU's tariffs against China, likely because it feared potential retaliation on its pork exports. Carlos Queiro, Spain's Minister for Economy and Trade, said it best. "We must continue negotiating to avoid a lose-lose situation, but with each passing day, China's patience is wearing thin. Can Europe find an off-ramp from this impending disaster, or is it too late to prevent an all-out trade war?" The intricate chess match between the EU and China doesn't just involve luxury goods, but the very economic levers China holds over Europe. Let's zoom in on China's retaliatory strategies. The Chinese government has wielded tariffs and bans on key European exports before, and the latest round of tensions suggests we're witnessing a sophisticated escalation. From France's cognac to Spain's pork industry, it's not a simple tit-for-tat response. China is choosing its targets carefully, potentially even giving exemptions where the blowback would be more harmful to itself than the EU. Could China expand its retaliations to encompass a wider range of European industries? We've already seen signs of this playbook. Consider Australia's experience during their diplomatic spat with Beijing. Exports like barley, beef, and wine were suddenly met with crippling tariffs. Similarly, if relations worsen, we may see European food exports becoming collateral damage. What's notable is China's approach to Airbus. Despite the broader economic pressures, China has exempted critical European industries from retaliation. This is no coincidence. China is negotiating a significant purchase of Airbus aircraft, and hitting Airbus with tariffs would only benefit Boeing, a key U.S. competitor. This careful selection of targets highlights Beijing's strategy. It's not just retaliation, it's about reshaping trade on China's terms. Now let's shift to one of the biggest European players in this drama, Germany. As the beating heart of Europe's automotive industry, Germany stands particularly exposed to China's countermeasures. With leading brands like Mercedes, BMW, and Volkswagen, the stakes are high. China is already hinting at raising tariffs on large-engined European cars. And if those threats materialize, it will shake up the German automotive sector. But it's not just about luxury cars. Electric vehicles, EVs, are the new battleground. Germany's push for EVs aligns with Europe's green agenda, but there's a significant problem. China dominates the EV supply chain. Everything from lithium batteries to key electronic components flows through Chinese factories. If Germany's auto sector becomes a target, China could squeeze access to critical materials, slowing down Europe's shift to electric vehicles. Such a move would not only hurt the German economy, but also potentially derail Europe's green energy ambitions. As tensions rise, it's not just France and Germany that are feeling the heat. Italy's luxury fashion brands, Spain's pork industry, and Denmark's dairy producers could all find themselves in Beijing's crosshairs. For Italy, a country synonymous with high fashion, Chinese consumers represent a vital market. But just like France's cognac, these brands could face steep tariffs if relations continue to sour. In 2023 alone, Italian luxury sales to China surged, underscoring the dependency of Europe's luxury sector on Chinese consumers. Spain's pork industry is another vulnerable sector. China is the world's largest pork consumer, and Spain is one of its major suppliers. Any disruption in this trade flow would have serious consequences, not just for Spain's farmers, but for the broader EU economy. The stakes are especially high because China has shown its willingness to diversify its supply chains, as seen with recent deals with South American countries. Moving beyond specific sectors, let's discuss an even broader issue. Energy. China's growing influence in the energy sector is reshaping global markets. Beijing has ramped up investments in green energy technologies, positioning itself as a leader in solar power, wind energy, and electric vehicles. But at the same time, China remains heavily reliant on European energy companies for cutting-edge technology. This dependency creates a unique power dynamic. China may retaliate against Europe in some areas, but when it comes to energy, the relationship is more symbiotic. European companies like Siemens and Schneider Electric are key players in China's energy transformation. Disrupting these ties would be a double-edged sword, potentially slowing China's own energy goals. The question remains, will China target European energy companies, or will it protect this crucial industry to advance its domestic agenda? Europe finds itself walking a fine line. On the one hand, it must maintain a strong stance against China's state-sponsored economic practices. On the other, the EU is acutely aware of the risks involved in alienating one of its largest trading partners. China accounts for nearly 10% of all EU exports, and the balance of trade continues to tilt in Beijing's favor. Europe's dependence on China for everything from raw materials to consumer markets puts it in a vulnerable position. But it's not just about economic dependency. The broader question is whether Europe can afford to antagonize China at a time when the global economic landscape is so fragile. With inflation still a concern across much of the EU, the last thing Europe needs is an economic war with Beijing that disrupts supply chains and drives up costs for European consumers. Let's reflect on the broader geopolitical stakes. The escalating trade tensions between the EU and China could very well morph into a full-blown trade war. But unlike past economic conflicts, this isn't just about tariffs and trade deficits, it's about a larger battle for global dominance. Europe is caught between the US and China, both vying for economic and technological supremacy. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz are advocating for diplomatic solutions, but it's unclear whether negotiations will bear fruit. China, after all, has shown it's not afraid to play hardball. The EU's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles may have been the spark, but the flames of this conflict could spread far and wide. As the geopolitical chessboard shifts, European leaders are scrambling to find a solution. French Trade Minister Sophie Primas stated that China's measures are incomprehensible, while other EU officials are calling for continued negotiations. But will diplomacy be enough? With China's whole-of-state effort to become the world's only superpower, the stakes are higher than ever. The next few months could determine the future of trade relations between the EU and China, and potentially reshape the global economy. Will Europe double down on its tariffs, risking further retaliation from China? Or will cooler heads prevail, leading to a diplomatic resolution that avoids a full-scale trade war? The outcome of this conflict will have far-reaching implications, not just for Europe and China, but for the entire global economy. In the coming months, we'll be watching how Europe navigates this delicate situation. And that's the million-dollar question. Can Europe navigate this economic minefield without losing its footing? Or are we on the brink of a trade war that could reshape global commerce as we know it? As the titans of industry and politics continue their tug of war, one thing is clear. The world is watching, and the stakes have never been higher. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.